Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Story Time. I'm your host and producer, Courtney Baker. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am very, very excited for this guest. I know I say that literally every single episode, but I always handpick who we have on the show and I count down the days to every single one. There's been such a variety of guests on the show, so many different stories, and I hope that even if you didn't know who the guests were prior to listening to their episode, I hope that you truly became a fan afterwards because everyone's stories have been so amazing. So today I am bringing you my interview with Broadway's own Austin Scott. I actually interviewed him back in, I think it was 2017, all the years blend together, but he was on the Hamilton tour and they were in Arizona for a long time. They actually performed at my college long after I graduated, but he was at ASU for a while. And I just wanted to catch up with him and hear just what it's like playing Alexander Hamilton, what it's like being on a tour that sells out constantly. The lotteries are just insane. So that was kind of our first conversation. And I'm going to ask him a couple of the same things because that interview, obviously, y'all didn't hear it or see it. But he provided some really great insights. And I can't wait for y'all to hear it. So enjoy the episode. All right, y'all, we are back with Austin Scott, somebody that, like I mentioned in the intro, I had the pleasure of speaking with years ago. And here we are now in 2021. Austin, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So happy to be here.
Good. Well, I want to hear, I'm very curious. So, obviously, I follow you on social media. Your Instagram stories, especially with your girlfriend, crack me up. I mean, y'all just have so much fun together. And it's in a weird place, too, because with live entertainment shut down, I mean, there's really no work that y'all can be doing. So, I want to hear in a COVID quarantine world, what does your average day look like now?
Oh boy. I think that's one of the things I've been struggling with most is like trying to find some sense of like consistency, from day to day. It's like so different. But it can look like I wake up at like 9:30, 10. Like I usually sleep in, till I feel like getting up, more or less. But then I get up, I have my coffee. I've been doing cold showers for most of quarantine, like in the morning, which is just like
Ooh.
I think I watched, what is it? Gwyneth Paltrow has a show called Gloop or something like that. Goop. There it is, Goop. And they had this episode about this guy who just like swears by cold showers and like, immersing yourself in like cold water and all this and all the things it does for your health and your mind and stuff. So I just started doing it and it has really been awesome. So I kind of do that every morning for like 2 minutes, like a minute and a half.
Okay.
It just like wakes me up, gets me ready for the day. So I do that. I come out, I'll have like my coffee and I'll read for a while or I'll like, check out the news or whatever, depending on like what's going on. And then I kind of just throughout the rest of the day, I either have auditions like self tapes. There are still like some film auditions happening, or sometimes I'll have like a reading. There's been a lot of like work that has been being done just kind of like on Zoom. I've had some friends who've written some things. I've been doing Q&As and I've been teaching some workshops and doing like one-on-one meet and greets with people sometimes. And like, it's kind of like a just every day looks a little different, but it's usually some combination of all of that. And then right now I'm like, after we have dinner, me and my girlfriend usually sit down and watch a show like Succession is what we're watching right now, which we are obsessed with.
Ooh, I haven't seen that
Um,
yet.
so good, so good. I had slept on it for a long time. People were talking about it, but I never really got into it till recently. It's really, really good. The acting, the writing, just like terrible people, and for some reason, it's really fun to watch terrible people. Um, but yeah, we do that, and then we usually read for a while before bed, and maybe watch some TikTok videos, and that's more or less what a day looks like.
There you go. And speaking of like the workshops, Q&As, meet and greets, all that, I do see your face come up on my Facebook all the time because it's the Hamilton like targeted ads. I don't know if
Yeah.
I've posted so much about Hamilton since it was on Disney Plus that they're like, all right, every Hamilton ad we can give Courtney, serve it to her. But I'm always like scrolling at least every other day. I'm like, okay, there's Austin's face again. Like you always
That's
pop
funny.
up.
I didn't know that that was happening for other people. I thought maybe that was just me because like they knew that I was that guy. So like they were targeting their ads at me, but that's hilarious that it's actually happening to other people too. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny. I'm seeing because I work with like a couple different companies for that, and it's like I kind of see the same faces on all the different companies. Like if you're a Broadway actor or whatever that's doing that, then you're kind of just like everywhere. So it's fun to see the same people over and over again.
I love it. It makes me smile every time. But with that, like, I mean, people don't really understand. And I spoke to Hope and Voltaire from the OBC of Hamilton earlier, or I guess later in 2020. But we really touch on everyone that was working on Broadway hasn't worked since March. And so y'all are really coming up with the creative ideas. So just to kind of make it like a serious question, I mean, just kind of tell everyone what y'all have had to go through and the adjustments you've had to make and how important these workshops and Q&As are just to,
Hmm.
I mean, put some money in the pockets of actors and actresses that haven't really been able to perform.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, live in-person theater performances done for right now, right? I mean, there have been some things that have been popping up, like private events and private concerts that where you do all the testing and every stuff. I haven't done any of that, but I know some friends back in New York have been doing that. But yeah, the world of live entertainment as we know it is stopped right now, and it's there's been some incredible companies. I mean, I've got to shout out like Broadway Plus was one of the first companies that I worked with. And like before the shutdown, they mostly worked to like facilitate meet and greets after shows and stuff where you could go back and meet Broadway performers. And so they kind of like pivoted when this happened and switched to online meet and greets and Q&As and concerts and things like that. And I've just been very grateful for them and all the companies who have done that because they have been very helpful in like supporting artists and supporting the artists that are out of work and who don't really have any other means of making money right now. It's been really great to have them kind of supporting us, so that's been awesome. But there have been some really creative ways to keep things going, like I said, I've had a lot of friends who've been making musicals and working on new works and doing Zoom readings of those, and cabarets where you just invite all of your followers to come and like watch you and do some songs. Like that's been really really cool. So I think there's been a lot of new innovation that has come from this year, and it'll be interesting to see once regular live theater and stuff does come back, how much of this kind of still hangs around. How if this will kind of continue to be a side thing for actors and artists.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think people love the fact that they can have access to people that, maybe they can't afford a Broadway ticket, or, maybe they live in a different country and don't have any
Hmm.
plans on being able to come to New York and see y'all perform live. So I think that's a really good point, and I hope that, it does stick around once everything is still up and running, because it's a great way to connect y'all with your fans.
Yeah.
But one thing that was happening when the shutdown, you were playing Joe Scott from Girl from the North Country. I was
Hmm.
so excited when you announced it. But is there any plans? I mean, kind of tell me what went into it and like how it was going until the shutdown. And then are there any talks on, kind of getting it as soon as you guys get the green light, like just starting it back up? Or what's the future with all that right now?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak officially, but I
Mhm.
can say that like there's no plans to close as of right now. The plan is to get back and up and running when everything gets back up and running. But little by little, I know that Hamilton, for example, I think they announced that they were planning on reopening in like July. That they're the only show that I think has made a public statement so far. But I
Mhm.
think that the shows that have not had to close, permanently, that are kind of just idling and waiting. I think, we're all just waiting for we're waiting to see what happens with the vaccine.
Mhm.
If the rollout can get more efficient, if if there is kind of like a taste from audiences to come back and sit in the theater fairly close to each other and watch a show, and just kind of
Mhm.
like gauging public opinion. So I think a lot depends on just what happens in the next few months with regards to that. But yeah, I know that as far as right now, we're planning on coming back, but as of when, we're not sure yet.
That's awesome. I'll keep my fingers crossed. And just, I work in sports, so it's the same way. And what we've realized, sports are obviously still going, whether there's fans or not, we were able to start them back up. But I have realized just in talking to people around the industry, like people want that live entertainment again. And I truly believe that once Broadway opens, whether it's limited capacity or whatever it looks like, I think just everybody will want to be there because it's something that now
Yeah,
we've been missing out on for almost a year. So I think
yeah.
Broadway's going to thrive once like everything gets figured out.
I think so too. I mean, like you said, I think people are missing it, and I think people have realized what an important, you know, niche it fills, or
Mhm.
what it does for people, that live theater that you can't quite get from even a filmed version of the performance. I mean, I've gotten, obviously there's been Hamilton filmed live now, and they're working on Diana the musical, and I think a
Ooh.
couple other ones for Netflix. And while I think that is awesome for like increasing accessibility to these shows, like you said, for people who
Mhm.
can't make it to New York, can't afford a ticket, I still think that is something separate from
Mhm.
what live theater is, and really what you get when you show up and you're sitting in the theater watching a show. I think you can't really replicate that in any kind of virtual way. So yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to thrive. I think um, it would be really wonderful. Like, I'm looking forward to being a part of that kind of reopening stage, where everyone's coming back. And I think that's going to be a really, really charged and exciting time. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I agree. And hopefully I can actually make it out and see. I
Yeah.
saw Wicked like, gosh, over a decade ago. My grandpa took me on a trip to New York City and I picked Wicked. And oh my gosh, just the whole Broadway experience is unreal. I wish I was older and could have appreciated it more, but it is so cool. So I
Yeah.
will make it a goal to come see whatever show you're in, whatever year it is I can afford to go back to New York City. We'll make it
Sounds
happen.
good. Sounds good.
All right. Well, now let's talk about you. I can't remember if I asked you in this original interview. It was so long ago, but I love hearing the stories of what made people fall in love with whatever career field that they chose to pursue. So, for you, with acting, performing, singing, I mean, what made you fall in love with it and what made you decide, like, okay, I want this to be what I do for a living?
Yeah. It started way back when I was really young, like 6. I mean, I was in kindergarten, and there was this woman named Annabelle. She had this children's choir. It was kind of like this international children's choir called Bowena, and she came into our kindergarten class and held auditions. I think she had like all the kids sing "Happy Birthday" or something like that, and somehow she decided that I had good pitch and that I had some semblance of a voice. So she brought me in, and I did that choir for probably like 2 years. And I think I was a really shy kid. Like, I mean, I'm still an introvert for sure, but like I was a really shy kid. And I think that was my first experience of kind of being up in front of people and singing. And you know while I was shy, and I think I just mouthed the words most of the time, I didn't even sing them, it still kind of like sparked something in me. I liked it. And I think it was like a year later I went in to actually sign up for acting classes. My mom and I was like walking by this acting studio, and I kind of just like tugged her arm and was like, "Can I go in? Can we do this?" And she's like, "Sure." And we went in and I auditioned, and they actually told me I was too shy. They were like, "I don't know, he might be a little too
Oh.
shy for this. Not quite, not right now, but maybe when he's older." So
Mhm.
it was like a year later that I had been doing the Vowena, the children's choir, and I decided to go back. I went to my mom and I was like, "I think I'm ready now." So I put on this little like suit, and I went in with a little British accent, and I was like, "Hello, my name is Austin Scott,"
Oh
and
my
just
God.
kind of opened up, and they loved it. So that was how I started classes. And I think, I mean, like I said, that was when I was 7 or 8. I think from that point on, I just like became the class clown. I loved to like make people laugh and like tell
Mhm.
stories and sing and all of that. And that just never really left. I think that kind of stayed with me. It still is what drives me. And as I was growing up, I was doing things like Chia Pet commercials, which I don't know if people
Wait,
know what that is, but
what?
Chia, yeah, I did like a Chia Pet
Does
commercial.
it still
If you
air or
go
is it
back,
like an
it's
outdated
it
one
is
now?
it is in some hidden dark corner of the internet. I think it might pop on at like Nick at Night at 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. I've heard people say that, but yeah, if you find one with a little black kid with an afro and glasses, that's me. But I did that and like whatever little films and plays and stuff I could get into in my small town of Benicia, California, in Northern California. Um, and it was kind of as I got into school, into like middle school and stuff, I started doing improv, and that was huge for me because that pulled me out of my shell more and helped me trust
Mhm.
myself. And it was around all that time that I think I started seeing musicals. Wicked was one of the first I'd seen. Like Lion King as well was like both
Mhm.
of those were just really really exciting spectacles that I loved. And I think though the moment that I really kind of felt like musical theater was there was like a place for me there was I think when I saw Brian Stokes Mitchell sing a concert in San Francisco. He is,
Mhm.
kind of a legendary musical theater performer. Looks a
Mhm.
lot like me, tall, light skin, black hair. Like I look up to him, and when I saw him up on that stage, just like killing it and holding this audience wrapped, like holding their attention, I was like, wow, I could do this. Like there is a place for me in this world
Mhm.
because he's doing it. Um, so I feel like that's one of the really key moments that I always look back on and be like, that was an important moment. But yeah, I mean the rest is kind of history from middle school, high school on to making it to Hamilton.
That's so cool. And you did mention you're an introvert. And I know you answered, I think it was on your Insta story or something.
Hmm.
Somebody assumed you were an extrovert and you're like, not true. But with that, I have seen some crazy YouTube videos of like the stage door of Hamilton, just people lined up, freaking out whenever anyone walks out. So, I mean, you were on the tour, you were on Broadway. Obviously, Hamilton sold out no matter where it was. But with you being an introvert and fans sometimes not knowing how to react when, a performer they love, they finally get in front of, was there any moment or any time where you were like, okay, I don't know, like this is kind of too much for me, like it's just sensory overload?
Yeah, I mean that's when I say I'm an introvert, that's more what I mean by it is like those kind of interactions or like being at a party or being, in a social setting tends to just kind of like drains my tank over time as opposed to
Mhm.
fills it up. So it's like it's not that I don't enjoy that or it's like, that I like avoid that. It's more just that it does kind of drain on me after a while. And so there were times when like maybe after a two-show day or something, a
Mhm.
really particularly emotional performance, or I had something else going on where it's like my emotional energy level was just kind of low. Sometimes there were those days where I couldn't go out after the show. It's like I would love to go say hi to these people, but I really just like don't have it in me. But I always tried to, like, if I had anything in the tank, I would go out and connect with them because I loved it. I loved getting to talk to them and see how much the show meant to them and what it how it changed them or helped them see something, or just how many times them letting me know how many times they've seen the show and who their favorite character is. Like I loved connecting with people like that. But I think that's just something I've come to learn about myself, is that I do kind of have a tank, and it once it gets low, I gotta kind of just go back and recharge before I can keep going.
Yeah, I'm the exact same way. I love being friends with everybody. I love talking to everybody. I
Hmm.
am always one of the most social people when I have the energy. But like you, I've realized over the last couple years, like just group settings, parties, drinking, whatever it is,
Hmm.
I get to a point where I'm like, okay, this is just like making me cranky. It makes me feel like an old
Right.
lady. Like
Right.
it takes a lot out of people. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, like they don't have that problem, but I can
Yeah.
definitely understand where you're coming from with that.
Yeah. Well, and like I don't even, I think there used to be such a negative connotation with like being an introvert or being that, where it's like, oh, you've got, this problem that you can't be around people for extended period of time. And I
Yeah.
think it's really just like, you're either one way or you're the other, or you're kind of a mixture
Mhm.
of the two. And it's not really, one's not necessarily good, one's not necessarily bad. It's just kind of knowing that about yourself, knowing how you recharge, and
Mhm.
when you need to, pull back, or what you need to do to kind of, fill your tank back up. I think it's just a
Mhm.
matter of knowing yourself, um, and just, being comfortable with that.
And that's really good advice too, just for quarantine and COVID. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people have had really empty tanks. I mean, I'll raise my hand, that's me
Hmm.
80% of the time during 2020 and in the beginning parts of 2021. And people just understanding, what makes them happy, what gets them going, what gives them energy. And I guess with that, I mean, do you have any advice? I know you kind of walked through what your day is and what fills your tank. But for maybe their performers, maybe they do something completely different, maybe they're kids, adults, whoever. Like, what advice would you give people that they're always running on E and they're struggling to, fill their tank?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be different for every single person. So, I mean, like, I think baseline, it's really just kind of about checking in with yourself and like seeing
Mhm.
what you need, like on a, spiritual level, even.
Mhm.
Um, Something that's been huge for me is just like meditation. And I know, some people say meditation and they think a certain thing, and meditation can be a lot of different things. It can be as simple
Mhm.
as just sitting down for 10 minutes and breathing in and out and just focusing on that's what you're doing. You're
Mhm.
breathing in and out. It just kind of helps calm all the other noise and like center me a little bit. So that's
Mhm.
been really helpful. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think just figuring out what it is that you need, and where your life feels like out of balance. Are you feeling like you've got too much on your plate? Do you need more structure in your life? Do you
Mhm.
need, less rigidity? Do you need more, connection with family and friends, because maybe you need to call, make some phone calls? Maybe you need less. Maybe you need to take more time for yourself and just kind of, hang out and watch movies for a day. Like, everyone's going to be different, but I think my main advice would just be, really meditate and
Mhm.
take some time to just check in with yourself, and really, just kind of see what you need,
That's
and be
great
gentle
advice.
with yourself too.
And I've just started meditating the past couple nights. I don't know if you have tried this, but it is life changing. There's an app called Relax Melodies, and
Mm,
my talk space therapist recommended it. I'm pulling it up because I can't remember what it's called. But they, like, under meditations, there's something called a body scan. And it's
hmm.
like 17 minutes long. And it's like, it just walks you through your whole body and you're laying there. And I have almost knocked out every single time I've listened to it just because it's so relaxing. So, highly
Yeah.
recommend if you haven't tried that yet.
I love body scans. I used to do a body scan pretty much every show before Hamilton. When I was on tour, I would do a body scan, and it just kind of, got me centered, put me in my body a little more, or less in my head. But I've
Yeah.
also talked to people who, like, they're like, oh, body scans are really hard for me because then I get really fixated on certain parts of the body. So I think it is a little bit of trial and error with those things for
Mhm.
people. But I know for me, those have been fantastic. I love them.
Same. And so, speaking of tour, obviously you got to go to so many different cities. I know you were in Tempe, Arizona
Hmm.
for, I think, a couple weeks. I entered every lottery, lost every single one. So that was awesome.
Oh.
But y'all were at ASU, my school.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to ask you what your favorite thing about Arizona was because I know you've done thousands of shows. But did you have a favorite city that you went to where you just made so many memories, either during the show or on your free time?
Yeah, I've got to say, I think Washington D.C. was my favorite
Ooh.
city. We were there for, that was one of the longest stretches we had. I think we were there for about 3 months, 3.5 months, and most cities we were at for 2, 3, 4 weeks. So
Mhm.
definitely had a lot more time to kind of get settled in there. But there was just something about that city. It's so big, and there's so much going on there all the time. And
Yeah.
I would ride my bike to the theater every single day, which was really
Oh.
cool. I loved, just that experience. I would like ride by the White House, and even though I did not have any interest in the person that was in there, I ride by, such a, historical monumental place.
Mhm.
um but yeah, I just have a lot of great memories from that time. My girlfriend had come, and she like lived with me, for at least half the time we were there, so that was really cool,
Aw.
to, just get to spend that time with her. yeah, I had a lot of fun there. But every city had its own vibe. Every city had something special that I'm never gonna forget. And that was one of the best parts about tour, was just getting to experience so many different places, and just kind of get to have a little sampling of what they had to offer. So yeah, I'm really grateful for that.
That's awesome. And then after the tour, obviously you made the move to Broadway, just huge
Hmm.
news. So Lin-Manuel Miranda, the OG Alexander Hamilton. I know Javier was also Hamilton as well. So you kind of stepping into that role before everyone's seen the show on Disney Plus and all of that, there was still the exclusivity of the show. But did you feel any pressure? I'm sure both of them were great mentors and kind
Hmm.
of allowing you to be your own Alexander Hamilton. But were you like kind of freaking out in the beginning, like your
Oh,
first show?
for sure. I mean, I think I was more freaking out before my first show ever, like before tour. By the time I got to Broadway, I was a little more, it was more or less the same, doing the same thing in a different place with a different company. But it was different just because I was on Broadway, and there was everything that comes with that. But I think taking it back to like when I first got the role, I actually had never seen Lynn do it live. I had seen Javier do it live. He was actually a family friend, so I saw it with him like way back, way back when it first went up on Broadway, I think, and thought he was incredible. And when I got the role, I definitely was nervous at first. I was like, I don't know. I've never led a show of this size, or at this level, but I mean, this is Hamilton, so it's like not just a Broadway show or a hit show. This is Hamilton, which is a whole different level. So I was talking to my friend, I was talking to Javier, I was talking to James Iglehart, who I also knew from the Bay Area at that time, who had played Genie in Aladdin, the original Genie in Aladdin. I was just like, what does it mean to be the title character in a show, to kind of like be at the helm of that ship. And so I got a lot of information from them, about just the responsibility, and how to bear that, and how to you know be a part of the whole, and help just like support your fellow actors and everything. But I realized pretty quickly, once I got into rehearsals, that they really had no interest in trying to make me be Hamilton. I mean, trying to make me be Lin Manuel Miranda or Javier or whoever had played it, before me,
Yeah.
to help me grasp the like foundational elements of this character, like the character traits and what motivates him, and what he fears, and all of that, and then just kind of see how that all fits on me, like who is my Hamilton, who is Austin's Hamilton. And so I was given a lot of freedom, a lot of kind of leeway from the beginning, and I'm very, very, very grateful for that, because it just made the process that much more fun, to get to really feel like, okay, I don't have to replicate anything. Like, I can take this amazing, amazing role and really make it my own. And Lynn and Tommy Kail and Alex Lacamoire, like everyone was always so supportive of that. So that was great.
And I don't know if you've seen, but on Instagram, I know people aren't supposed to record, but especially once the show came on Disney Plus, my like explore page was mostly Hamilton. You were in a lot of it. It would be
Yeah.
like people would do Lynn's version, yours. And so once again, my feed was full of Austin Scott, and you like blew up even though you weren't in the recorded version. And also, did you know you have a sticker on Instagram?
I do know that, and that was one of the coolest days being a part of Hamilton, when they recorded all of those. I don't think we really understood that we were going to be like the Hamilton gifs or whatever. But it's been so cool. Like the other day, my girlfriend was like, "You're in Zoe Kravitz's story. She used your GIF," and I'm like, "That's just crazy." Like it's just
Oh
so
my
cool.
gosh.
So it's pretty fun.
Awesome. And just now we're going to talk about, I know Alexa is always in all of your stuff. You're living together during, this quarantine. And I just want to know, I've heard so many stories, both good and bad, of couples doing COVID together, because obviously you can't prepare to be with each other 24/7. But has there been anything or like any time where you guys are like wanting to just like scream at each other, or has it all been like cloud or rainbows and all that?
I mean, no, it's definitely been a mix, but honestly, like this is gonna sound just like the company line, like, "Oh, everything's great." We are great. We're closer in a lot of ways than we ever have been, and it's been like a really awesome opportunity for us to just like get to know each other on a much deeper level.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's my best friend, and it's just been so cool just like getting to know her on a deeper level and getting closer to her. So I know that it's been a really hard time on a lot of people, and obviously we've definitely had our ups and downs, but overall, yeah, very so grateful to be doing this thing with her.
Oh, I know. I almost texted you beforehand, like, does Alexa want to join in on this? Just because you can see how much love you guys have for each other, just every post. It's been amazing. So I've been a little jealous just looking at your guys' relationship. But yeah, I'm glad to hear, obviously, things are great. And I think
Yeah,
everybody just wants to, I mean, it can't get better than quarantine with your best friend. Um,
honestly,
so
honestly.
I know y'all are with her family right now, correct?
Mhm. Yep.
So, what are the plans for, once life starts going again, vaccines, all of that? Like, are you guys going to move back to New York City or like what's in store for you?
Oh yeah, I mean we've got our apartment in New York. Kind of just sitting there. So it's been kind of a month by month thing, really. Initially we were thinking we would go back, like first week of January, but then we were watching the cases, and there wasn't necessarily neither of us had something that was calling us back immediately. So we're like, well, we'll just hang out here for a little while longer, and I think now we're thinking about heading back in March. But
Okay.
we're just kind of, yeah, just taking it day by day, seeing what comes up, what the vibe is like out in the city, and we definitely miss it. I know I miss it quite a bit. So we'll definitely be back there before long, but yeah, we're just taking a little bit at a time.
You'll have to send me some tips. So, my brother just sent his, I don't even know what they call it now, his commitment to St. John's University,
Mm,
which I think is like Queens area, I believe. And the only time he's been to New York is when he just visited the school. So, I mean, he's from Scotts, Arizona. It's going to be a very rude awakening, I think, when he gets to New
yes,
York.
yes, it will.
But you'll have to send me some like dining recommendations,
Oh,
all
for
of that.
sure.
But for anyone listening, is there one place in New York City where, once things open up and people can visit again, whether it's pizza, whatever, what would you recommend?
Oh boy. Well, for a long time, our favorite pizza spot was this place called Prince Street Pizza.
Okay.
Um, and unfortunately, they got called out recently for, the owners just said some really racist things, and so pretty upset with them at this point. But I believe they've stepped down and there's new ownership, so I'm kind of
Okay.
waiting to see how that shakes out before I can like really throw my weight behind them again.
Yeah.
Because we love their pizza. But that place, we love. I mean, this is not necessarily completely unique to New York, but like we love Birch Coffee. We had a Birch Coffee across the street from our apartment. We would go there all the time, get coffees and things like that. Um, there's this place called Le Coucou, which is just like
Oh.
a really like fancy restaurant, French restaurant that we had no business being at, but we went there for our anniversary one time and just kind of like lost our minds. Really, really cool spot. But it's like it's New York. You turn a corner and you're going to be at an amazing spot. Like anywhere you just kind of can't go wrong in New York.
So at the French restaurant, I know when I went to expensive restaurants in Italy, there were things on the menu that I had never seen in my life. Like there was little
Hmm.
baby like octopus in my pasta. And I'm like, what is this? So at the French restaurant, knowing it's expensive, was there anything where you were like, oh my gosh, like this is the most disgusting looking thing I've ever seen? Like I'm very curious about
I mean, I don't know if I'd say disgusting, but there were things that we
that.
just like didn't know. Like that we had seen on the menu there was this thing called sweetbread, and we were like, oh well, that looks interesting. And the our server was like, oh, you have to have this. It's incredible. And so they we didn't know what to expect. And at one point they had come over and they put down these 2 little pieces of bread with like olive oil on them. And it just basically looked like, bread with olive oil. But we're like, is this it? Is this the sweet bread? And we were like tasting it slowly and like savoring the bites and being like, is there something special about this? I can't tell. Turns out that was just like the side to what actually the sweetbread was. And the sweetbread was, oh my God, what was it? It was like, I don't even know. It was the organ of some animal. It was just something that like you would not think to order or be like, oh, I want to eat that. But when
Yeah.
I tell you, it was like one of the most delicious things we've ever tasted. It was just amazing. And so, I'm glad that they didn't say what it actually was, that it was just sweetbread, because we wouldn't have ordered it, but it was really, really good. So, that is French cuisine. I know is kind of a lot of that. They utilize different parts of the animals and dishes that you wouldn't necessarily think of here in America as being, oh, that's delicious. But
Yeah.
it was a really cool experience.
All right. And then final New York question. Since I work in sports, I will judge you on your answer. Not really, but curious. Are you a sports fan? And if so, I know New York has a ton of different teams, but if it's not a New York team, who's your team? Or do you just not care? Because there's a lot of people that don't care about sports.
Yeah, I'm a little more towards the not caring end of the spectrum now. I think, I used to be a basketball player. Like, I played basketball all through middle school and high school, and I probably would have continued, but I ended up injuring my back. So that kind of ended that portion of my sports career. But I would say I'm a basketball fan to a degree. And I really have not gotten behind any New York teams, unfortunately, yet. I think I'm a Golden State boy through and through.
Okay.
And so my team is the Warriors for sure. But that's kind of like the extent. I used to go to games when I lived in California and I would watch them all the time, but now I'm kind of just like, I keep an eye on them in passing, but not too deep into it anymore.
So, what about if you had the opportunity to go as a guest of a Jets player to a game? Would you go?
Oh, for sure. Oh my God, absolutely.
All right. Well, one of my friends is on the Jets. So when I go to a game, you, Alexa, and I are going to a game.
Let's do it.
We'll freeze our butts off, but it'll be worth it.
So worth
I heard
it.
It's crazy.
Let's do it.
Like, I heard Jets fans are like a whole other breed that I'm probably not used to, but I feel like we all need that like once in a lifetime experience.
Absolutely. Oh my God, I'm so down for it. Let's do it. Sounds amazing.
Perfect. Well, Austin, this has been so fun. I feel bad I've gotten like off topic a million times just chatting with you,
but great. This has been awesome.
Good. Well, where can everybody follow you on social media? And if you want to give Alexa a shout out to get her some followers.
Yeah, you can find me at Austin Scott 93, so AUSTINSCOTT 93. That's on Instagram and Twitter. And Alexa is Lexa Cepeda, LEXACEPEDA on Instagram. So yeah, you can follow us both.
I think you are the first guest that has actually spelled out the handles, and it is amazing. I appreciate it.
Of course. Of course.
Well, Austin, thank you so much for the time. I look forward to keeping up with once Broadway's open. I know you're going to be the busiest person alive, but hang in there and we'll get to the finish line eventually.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Thanks for having me.